Howdy folks. Well, this is it. The last roundup, so to speak, for our Christmas adventure. We've reviewed the Lawnmower Man movies, so now it's time to move on to the coup de grace, the finishing grabber. It's time to review the Lawnmower Man video game. Well, I'm not, Shasta, but look at it this way. I do review mostly video games, right? So, you could say that this is what it all led up to, really. I know that, Shasta. I don't need you to remind me. Alright, let's start this game. No, not for this review. Oh, shut up, Shasta. I researched the game. I just couldn't find very much. At least not enough to warrant any history.
THQ, huh? Well, that's a good sign. They make great games, so this is already promising. Oh my lord, listen to that tune. That is some good industrial music awesomeness right there.
Actually, that's one of the shining elements of this game. The soundtrack is great. It's almost as if KMFDM or Skinny Puppy did the music for Lawnmower Man. And that's a good thing, given the source material. The game benefits from that industrial music sound. Here are 3 specific tunes that I really enjoyed.
The game is a shoot 'em up and plays a lot like Contra, but in saying that, I should mention that unlike Contra, where you can shoot in multiple directions, in Lawnmower Man you can only shoot left or right. This actually isn't as bad as it sounds. Your enemies can only shoot from left to right too. The NPCs don't have an advantage over you, so that's good. Hey, they could have screwed the shooting mechanics up bad. It's been done badly in the past before this game was released. Predator on the NES. Another thing that makes this game like Contra is that it's very challenging. If 1 pixel of a bullet from an NPC hits your character, you're dead. There is a cheat code, but it's not for 30 lives, mind you, but rather for unlimited lives. And if this is your first time playing this game, don't feel guilty for having to punch in that infinite lives code. Lawnmower Man is that hard, and like any game, it just gets harder the further you go.
Well, yeah, I kind of had to. Shasta, you know that this game is balls-to-the-wall difficult, and yeah, I'm a hardcore gamer doesn't mean I'm a fucking master.
Being that this is a movie-based game, it seems only fit that they would put in a feature that was in the movie. And THQ did just that by giving us these awesome little VR levels in between the main shoot-'em-up stuff. You enter these virtual reality zones by shooting at these red octagons until they turn green. After that, you just jump into them, kinda like you would a giant ring in Sonic. There's some variety to be had here too, when it comes to these VR stages. For instance, there are these flying stages where you have to avoid obstacles such as walls and pillars. If you hit anything in these particular levels, you lose a life and you have to start again. Then there are these rail shooter stages where, like the flying stages, you have to not only avoid shit, but you also have to shoot at a specific number of enemies before proceeding. In these stages, you have a health bar, so you do have some leeway when tackling these levels. Finally, you have the third-person view flying and shooting stages. These stages are basically a combination of the flying and rail shooter stages, with the only major difference being the perspective. Now, from the very little research that I was able to dig up, THQ achieved these VR zones through the use of the Super Nintendo's Mode 7. In other words, they did the same thing that Ocean did with the Jurassic Park video game.
Personally, I think these VR levels are really fun. They switch things up and they keep things interesting. Very few games, especially today, do that, and it's cool to see THQ caring that much about their product, chiefly because this is a movie-based game.
The plot to this game picks up from where the first movie left off. Job, after entering into the world's net, has brought about mass chaos throughout the globe. Society is in complete disarray now, and Dr. Angelo, along with Peter's mom, decides to stop Job before the world is completely destroyed. Through their journey, Angelo discovers that Job is actually under the control of the shop, more specifically under the control of the shop's boss called Doom Player, which I assume they're talking about this guy from the film. So the final objective is to find Doom Player, put an end to the shop once and for all, and save the world.
Huh. Now that is something. The story for this game makes for a better sequel plot than the actual sequel to the movie that this game is based off of. It makes me wonder why they didn't just use this as the basis for Lawnmower Man 2. I mean, I get it, it's Hollyweird we're talking about after all, but still, this game came out a good 3 years before Lawnmower Man 2 hit. It should seem like a no-brainer to me if it were I at the helm of making Lawnmower Man 2, but, you know, I ripped on that movie enough. I'd rather not turn this review into a Lawnmower Man 2 bash fest. No, you're actually right for a change, pup. I probably could have ripped on this movie a little more, but I just couldn't take it. Lawnmower Man 2 was a confusing, plot hole covered, and continuity error-ridden mess of a movie. But I'm starting to veer off topic. Let us get back to the video game.
In addition to the Contra-like shooting levels and the movie-based virtual reality levels, there are also these quaint little puzzle games that you can play. Now, these are not necessary to beat the game. Hell, you could just skip over them altogether, but they are useful for grabbing power-ups and extra lives. And they're there as a little something extra. You get to the puzzles by going over to these terminals. Once you complete the puzzles, the terminal explodes, and you collect all the goodies that lay within.
Now, these little puzzles are more or less just optional distractions, but they're not bad ones. I've seen distractions put into games before, and sometimes they are bad. And also, they can be mandatory if you're like me and you want to get 100%, like collecting the flags in the first Assassin's Creed game.
Like many video games, Lawnmower Man has bosses for you to face off against. And since THQ stuck pretty true to the source material, most of the bosses are based off of characters from the movie. For example, you have Jake on a motorcycle, Father McKean, whom, like in the film, is on fire, and finally, Job himself. Well, his head, really. As far as boss characters go, for the exception of Job, of course, THQ could have very well have made their own OC bosses for this game. But I think they knew that most of the people who were going to play this game had already seen the movie, or at the very least were going to. So they just used the characters that were readily available to them from the film. And that's a plus for Lawnmower Man the game. THQ stuck true to the movie that they were basing their game off of.
Well, folks, I believe that this game has proven its worth, so I'm going to give it a G for good. I genuinely recommend it. And hey, why shouldn't I?
In my time as a gamer, I've played quite a few games that are based on movies and or TV shows, and I'm yet to review one that's really awful. But as far as Lawnmower Man the game goes, it's not a bad movie-based game. In fact, it's one of the few that actually is worth a damn. There are a few negatives though, like the game is a little harder than it really needs to be, and the ending is not very good, but the gameplay itself is very sound. And as I mentioned a couple times, it's very faithful to the source material. It would have been easy for THQ to just put together a half-assed attempt at a game and then slap Lawnmower Man's name on it just to make a quick buck. But they didn't do that. No, THQ put forth some honest-to-goodness effort. The game is short, sweet, and to the point, and being that this is a film-based product, that's a good thing. They didn't artificially pad it out just to make it longer. So all in all, good game, and I recommend it.
Well, folks, it's time to draw this little Christmas party to a close. And it's also time to bring an end to the first season of Shasta and I reviewing things for y'all. Well, Shasta, that's for you and I to know, and for the good viewers watching out there to find out. So, with that said, Merry Christmas, everyone, and join me and Shasta again when we kick off Season 2 in January. Goodbye, folks, and as always, y'all come back now, okay?